Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm back again, this time with a Epiphone 1960s Tribute Plus. So I'm going to start at the headstock, why not? Got Grover locking tuners, not a big deal. You got the same type of a laminate on the top, just like Gibson would have, covering up the top of the headstock. Different type, this is a different type of the bell-shaped truss rod cover, but it's centered. It's not off to one side more than the other or crooked or anything else. Now I did replace the nut on here with a bone nut. Now this video here is basically a comparison between the clear coat and how it was finished on an Epiphone compared to how it was finished on a Gibson. Not necessarily comparing the two guitars as being a guitar, but just a visual review of the finishes. Now, I have to say this, and which is kind of a bad thing to say, but Epiphone did a better job on buffing, sanding the clear coat than what Gibson did. And I'll show you a little bit of that in a minute. Now, this is the neck of the Epiphone. And you can see it's a lighter wood. You got some striping you can see in there. And you know, it's not as dark as the fretboard is on the Gibson. Also, the inlays that are on the Epiphone, they added a little bit of black filler into around the inlays, kind of hide the gap that they made when they installed them. You don't see that on the Gibson. So as far as the quality of that goes, that's, you know, a lot better. But on this guitar here, you're not seeing any cut marks in the fretboard either. So it's not like there's any problems with that. This doesn't have the binding that goes over the frets a little bit, but there is no sharp edges on these frets either. They did a nice job with you know, doing the fretwork on here. Now the body, okay? The big thing that I've been kind of talking about as far as the clear coat goes. Now the only flaws that I found in this finish, there's a few of them. The only flaws that I found in here is one of them being, see if I can focus in on that really good. Right there, there is a fisheye in the finish, okay? And I also found some areas where there's paint on the binding, and they didn't scrape the binding all the way up to the neck like they should have done. That's kind of it. Let me go to the back of this. This is a mahogany body and mahogany neck with a veneer on the back of the guitar. So actually this is 4 pieces of wood that make this body up, 4 or 3. I have to look at the siding count, but I believe there's got to be at least, well, I can count it right now. 1, 2, 3, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 pieces of wood, okay, that make this body up. And there's no scarf joint or there's no heel joint on the neck itself. Now, here's another thing that kind of sets the two off to being different from each other as well is, let me see if I can focus this in really good. Now, if you look at the joint here, you know, it's not wavy. It's pretty nice with the glare. They finished, when they sanded the body to buff it, they also sanded really close in that joint over there, so there's no orange peel going on between the neck and the body. You look at the Gibson, you see orange peel. Also on this one here too, they got all the way up to the fretboard when they sanded it and polished it all the way up to the fretboard, so there's no orange peel in there either. It's nicely done. The clear on the body, again, under fluorescent lights, you can't hide anything under fluorescent lights. And they did a real nice job as far as spraying this goes. Another thing that I was kind of talking about with the binding of the Gibson compared to the Epiphone, there is no lip here. You do not feel a lip at all going around the binding. Now, Epiphone does do a thing where they round off the top of the binding. At least they did so on this guitar. But if I can get down the same angle that I was before with the Gibson and kind of put the straight edge on here, there is no gap between the binding and the straight edge. Therefore, the body doesn't stick out more than the binding does. And it's like that all the way around the guitar. That's why I kind of said something about that, because I've never seen that before. And I always have thought that maybe, you know, That's the way it's supposed to be. And that's how I finished my guitars, my Les Pauls that I built and stuff like that. Now, I know you scrape the binding to make it clean before you do your clearing and stuff like that, and get a nice sharp edge line over here as far as separating the binding from the body. And I do the same exact thing. But I'd never have a lip here. It's always, by the time I had the clear on there and everything else, you don't feel anything. There's no lip. That's the way this is. That's why it surprised me a little bit seeing that on the Gibson. Again, the flame maple top is not as nice as the Gibson is, but it's not ugly either. Now this has the push and pull for the coil splitting. And you can see the burst on this thing here is pretty consistent from top to bottom. Also, a nice thing too is it's very light over here, not as dark as what the Gibson is. And again, I'm sure every guitar is different. They're not all sprayed the same way or bursted the same way, exactly the same way. But I can say that, the stripe, the burst going down the side over here is pretty much even all the way down. Doesn't look like any high, dark, and light spots compared to what the Gibson is. The Gibson had a nice light spot over here. This does not. So I have to say that the Epiphone, yes, there's a big difference in the guitars. Yes, the quality is not the same as a Gibson. Epiphone is a little bit, or a lot, of a lower quality of a guitar. But I have to say that they do finish them a lot better and pay attention to detail than what Gibson does. Sorry guys, that's just the way it is. And looking at it, you can't tell me any different. So you guys take care, have a good one, and catch up with all you later.